Let me begin setting of the topic, then I will introduce our panelists. So, as our topic itself indicates that we are going to discuss analyzing the practicality of domestic violence laws during exigencies. So it means this is a special condition, a special situation under which we are analyzing the provisions of domestic violence laws and to what extent they are compatible to deal with this situation that we will be discussing. So I must tell you some sort of data which throw some light about this, the vulnerability of women in this very condition, married women. So you will see that National Commission of Women registered 587 domestic violence complaints during March 23 to April 16. So there was significant increase in the number of cases. These number of cases may also be visualized in the sense that there was an online portal which was started by the Commission of Women. But we have also to bear in mind that despite that very portal, we don't have that regular, procedure on where people file complaint. So the number would be much more as it is being reflected. So why that has been there, and what are the various other factors which increase this vulnerability? So there is a gender gap in accessing IT tool. 43% of women have the cellular phone, or you can say mobile, while 80% men enjoy that very facility. So there is a gap, significant gap in income also. Low income groups are facing more problems. Victims are not finding their platforms in this very situation because the movement is totally restricted. And the other thing is that they are being displaced from their home, regular home. So this also increases their vulnerability as regards to domestic violence. So as you know, there is a recent opening of the liquor shops, which is also being one kind of enhancing factor of domestic violence that has also been there. So there is no shelter home. There are other things which are going on. So it is a kind of transition phase where domestic violence cases are being increasing, and it has become a global phenomenon. It is not restricted to India. But if you see, it is being all pervasive in Brazil, UK, Cyprus, Italy, and many other countries. So few of the countries have set very good example that if you see the measures adopted by UK, they have provided that women stepping out to escape or file a report will not be breaking the lockdown. They have made it very clear. The other thing you may see in the measure of taken by Spain, which allowed a woman to leave home to report abuses without fine. So these are some, kind of measures which has been taken by various countries around the world, and that creates a kind of glimmer of hope, silver line that we can also proceed by having something, some mechanism through our laws. So having said that, I must not take that much time. I must invite welcome all our guests and our own, PIC, Professor Raman Mittal. So I start with Ms. Susheel Bala Dagar, who is JSCC, ASCJ, and CJ, Rohini, and he has a great experience by helping these cases. And next, Ms. Neeti Suri Mishra, who is the Secretary, Central DLSA, and she has been catching up these issues and speaking about these issues on various platforms. So I welcome you, ma'am. And then I welcome our professor in charge, Professor Raman Mittal, for Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. So I invite, first of all, Professor in charge, Professor Raman Mittal, to welcome our guest and make an introductory remark regarding this topic. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kshitij. Ms. Susheel Bala Dagar, Ms. Neeti Suri Mishra, Dr. Kshitij, very dear participants. So during this lockdown, we are very glad that we are able to continue our activities and organize a function like this. Friends, movement limits imposed by governments around the world have forced people to spend much more time at home, leading to a surge in domestic abuse cases. It is not that the lockdown is the cause of domestic violence. However, it has been a catalytic agent to trigger many cases of domestic violence. Movement restrictions aimed to stop the spread of coronavirus is making violence in homes more frequent, more severe, and more dangerous. However, it is not just coronavirus. Domestic violence goes up whenever families spend more time together, or whenever families are forced to spend more time together. Evidence shows that the risk of domestic violence increases due to confinement. Dr. Kshitij, my colleague, has given certain examples from Spain. In Spain, the emergency number for domestic violence received 18% more calls during the current lockdown than before. The French police reported a nationwide spike of about 30% in domestic violence cases during this lockdown period. The United Nations has called for urgent action to combat the worldwide surge in domestic violence in these times of lockdown. Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said, "I urge all governments to put women's safety first as they respond to this ongoing pandemic." Isolation, however vital to fight against the pandemic, is giving still more power to the abuser. That is the unfortunate reality. The isolation has also shattered support networks, making it far more difficult for victims to get help or to find an escape route. The institutions that are supposed to protect the victims of domestic violence are now strained to respond to the increased demand during this lockdown period. Even the courts have had to slow down their working, leading to difficulties in getting emergent reliefs for the victims. Various family matters that otherwise require urgent attention have had to be postponed, which has forced the victims to be compelled to live in the company of their abusers and at times completely at the mercy of the abusers. For the victims of domestic violence, this lockdown has created a situation of nowhere to go. With no new provisions, the existing mechanisms are overstrained and understaffed and underprovided. But as the confinement drags on, the danger seems likely to intensify. Eventually, however, the lockdowns around the world will have to end, or we will have to no other option but to end them. But the aftermath of lockdown manifesting itself in loss of jobs, decreased sources of income, increased security and insecurity, and other financial setbacks is going to have an effect which will unfortunately outlive this lockdown. Therefore, our task is to provide legal aid. It becomes even more important, dotted with unexpected difficulties and unforeseen situations. So this is in a nutshell what I wanted to say, and in the end, I would like to narrate a poem written by a legendary poet and philosopher and mystic, Khalil Gibran, who spent his youthful days in Lebanon and the evening of his life in the United States of America. This poem is quite relevant to domestic violence cases and how to lead your life. It says, "You were born together, and together you shall be forever more. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. You shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness. And let the winds of heaven dance between you. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. and stand together, yet not too near together. For the pillars of temples stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grows not in each other's shadow. Let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of heaven dance between you. Thank you so much. I'm extremely thankful to the DLSA for organizing this event. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Kshitij.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for reflecting your views on this very, very sensitive topic. And you have provided a very good, insight regarding how to approach this very menace in emergent situation we are dealing with. So the responsibility as a society, as a DLSA or other organizations, that becomes very, very important in this very, time. And I must, appreciate the steps taken by DLSA, which engage so many students of our faculty or center who are doing very meaningful job regarding that. So, having said that, role of legal aid societies and DLSA and many other likewise organizations are more in this very situation. First of all, to outreach those people who are there. This is the most difficult task, which is always coming to people like us. So we ensure that we must have kind of outreach through various mediums. One of the medium is this one, which we are talking about, the online platform. The other one is taking up the calls and many other things. And reaching out physically is a little bit difficult nowadays, but DLSA is also providing that kind of a mechanism where you can have some sort of, you can say, your physical presence. So having said that, thank you very much, sir. Now I will invite Ms. Susheel Bala Dagar ma'am to give her thoughts over this very issue. So welcome.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Dr. Kshitij.
Thank you.
Professor Mittal has given an overview of this lockdown, and I think the picture is not as gloomy as it seems. There might be a silver lining, and we may have the silver lining becoming broader, and the gloomy picture can be done away with. It's not such a gloomy picture. We do have various laws. It is the only thing which we require is that there need to be awareness regarding the laws, the various laws which are there. And we need to encourage the people to come forward. The women need not play a damsel in distress kind of should not have a damsel in distress kind of an attitude. So I have held the Mahila Court for a short period of about 3 and quarter of a year, and I feel that the law enters in the institution of family only when there is deterioration of morality in the society. So the morality provides for, it can be said to be the principles which concern the distinction between the right and the wrong, the good and the bad. When these kinds of principles they deteriorate, the morality deteriorates, then only the violence begins in the domestic sphere. And we all know there is domestic violence. It is rampant in India. There are several persons, not only women, there are several persons who encounter domestic violence day in and day out in some form of the other. And we find that for domestic violence, there has to be any form of violence with any kind of a person, any person living in a domestic relationship with the abuser. So the person can be related by way of consanguinity, the person can be related by marriage, by adoption, or the person can be a family member who is living in the joint family. So there has to be a sharing of household for domestic violence, and the victim is trapped with the abuser in such kind of a situation. So typically we find in India the violence is with women, and the propagator are the male, the husband or the relatives of the husband. But there are other forms of domestic violence which includes the children, which includes the parents, the senior citizens, and any other person who is in a domestic relationship with the abuser. So let us start with listing these various domestic violence laws in India. starting from the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. Dowry prohibition, that was there even in the year 1961. Then we had the Indian Penal Code, the amendment in the year 1983. Specifically, I'm talking about the section 498A of the IPC, which officially provided that domestic violence is a criminal offense. Then we have the insertion of section 304B in the IPC in the year 1986. And then we have this Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act in the year 2005, which is providing for emergent reliefs, various emergent reliefs which are required during exigencies. In the case of exigencies and the urgency which we feel in the lockdown, that urgency might be felt by the abuser even when there is no lockdown. In such kind of a situation, there are laws. Only the thing is we need to be aware of those laws. Then we can always refer to the Amendment Act of 2013, IPC amendment, which provided for the section 354A to 354D, which included sexual harassment, which included voyeurism or stalking and disturbing of women in public place, all such things. These also can be utilized. These are the criminal. These are on the criminal side. Then we have the CAW cell. CAW cell has been put in place in every police district in the year 2010, wherein the women who are suffering from domestic violence can approach the police for assistance. Directly, the police can be approached for assistance. Then, not to forget section 125 of the CRPC, which has always been there, which provides for maintenance for wife, parents. So when we have come to children and parents, let's talk about the other victims, that is the senior citizens. They are also sufferers of domestic violence, and for them we have the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007, wherein it is a legal obligation for the children heirs to provide maintenance to the parents and the senior citizens. So under this act, the senior citizen parents may evict the abusive child from their house, even though they might not be the owner of the house. It might be a tenanted premises. Then also it can be evicted. We can refer to the Sunny Paul versus Government of NCT case in this regard, wherein the children were, the abusive children, they were asked to vacate the premises of the senior citizen parents. Further, we find that children also, they suffer domestic violence. And it is said it can be psychological abuse. It is said witnessing domestic violence by the child is also a child abuse. It is a form of psychological abuse. Then it could also take the form of a physical abuse or a sexual abuse. So we have the POCSO Act, wherein various provisions are made. So we have, in case of neglected child, we have the JJ Act, we have the CWCs, which take care of such children who are neglected. So further, we have the Commission for Protection of Children Rights Act, that is 2005 Act. And under the Act, national and state level commissions can be framed. They are constituted for the protection of child rights. And this list is not exhaustive. There are many more laws, which I might not be remembering at this stage, but may help the victims of domestic violence. So now the question arises, the practical aspect of these laws during exigency. And as I have held the Mahila Court, let me talk about the cases which were related to domestic violence against women. So because as you all, Dr. Kshitij has already said that major chunk of the domestic violence is against women, which most of the time is not reported. Only 30% of the cases are reported. And because of the setup, out of those 30%, only 30% come and report such things. Like you said, there are only 40 to 45%, 43% women who have a mobile phone, whereas their male counterparts, 80% of the male counterparts have mobile phone. So how to reach? That becomes a problem. So when we talk about the criminal law, when we refer to section 498A, or we refer to the civil laws like the divorce laws, all these laws may not provide for an emergent relief which is required by a female. The emergency relief, she is being thrown out of the house. She needs that her right to residence be protected. She is being not provided with food. She needs maintenance for herself. She needs clothes. She needs fees to be paid for her children. Fees to be paid for her children. For her dependents. Am I audible? Okay. So we find that in such a situation, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act comes as a relief to such kind of a women. Under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, we find there are civil remedies which are being enforced through criminal procedure. So such rights, there is a fourfold support system provided under the Protection of Women from the Domestic Violence Act. Let me call it the DV Act. So the fourfold support system includes provision of protection orders, provision of residence orders, provision of monetary relief, custody orders, and further sometimes there are compensation orders as well. So these, the need which is there is to make the people aware that these emergency relief can be sought for, and there are protection officers, there are service providers, there are police officers who are duty bound. There are magistrates who are duty bound under the Act. The duty is prescribed under Section 5 of the Act that they will inform the victim of her rights to seek such orders. Then they will provide information to her regarding the service providers. There are NGOs. For those service providers which are registered, the service provider, the section is provided, Section 10 of the Domestic Violence Act. So these service providers, they are registered under the Society Registration Act or under the Company Registration Act, which have the objective to provide, which have the objective to protect the rights of the women. And they may provide legal assistance, they may provide medical assistance, financial assistance, or any other assistance which is in a lawful manner. So all these things may be provided by the service provider. So now we find that there are 14 NGOs working in Delhi which are dealing with, which are providing such services during the lockdown period when the matter was taken up by the Honorable High Court. And at that time, the Delhi government has given a reply that there are such NGOs working in Delhi. There are 17 protection officers. The duties of the protection officer are provided. The protection officer has to ensure that any victim who reaches the protection officer, who is able to reach the protection officer, is provided proper legal aid, is provided proper medical facility, is provided with shelter home, shelter facility. So all these facilities, there are the duties of the shelter home are mentioned in Section 6 of the Act. The duties of the medical facilities are mentioned regarding the in charge. They will not deny any such medical aid or shelter to the aggrieved person if she approaches such shelter homes. So all these things are available. All these things, only the thing is the awareness regarding all these things. And also, it is the duty of the government to provide awareness, to spread education regarding such laws. And I think the government is doing this duty through the legal aid, through other machineries. The police officers are being sensitized. The judicial officers are being made aware of such situations. So all such duties are mentioned in the Act itself, the Section 11 of the Act. The government has to coordinate between the various machineries. The Act, Section 11, Clause C, provides for effective coordination between the services provided by the concerned ministries. So when we see the Domestic Violence Act, we find that it is a progressive act. It is merging the facilities which is available, which is provided by the various departments, the various ministries together. So like the Department of Women and Child Welfare has to work in collaboration with the Department of Home, particularly the law and order, that is the police, and then they have to work hand in hand with the social welfare department, wherein we provide for the protection officers, and we also have the human resource department. We have the shelter homes, the NGOs, there are other things which are being, all of these need to work in collaboration, and then only we'll be able to succeed in case of exigencies. Now, in the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, there has to be an agreed person. The definition of agreed person is provided under Section 2A of the Act, which includes a woman. She should be having a domestic relationship with the aggressor, that is the respondent, and further she should it should have been alleged that she has suffered domestic violence. Further, when we see the definition of domestic relationship, that is provided under Section 2F. Section 2F of the Act says domestic relationship is a relationship between two persons who have lived together in a shared household, having a relationship by way of marriage, consanguinity, adoption, or a relationship in the nature of marriage. All such things are being mentioned. Further, shared household would include a household wherein the aggressor and the victim, they both live together and they are sharing the household. There is commensality of the kitchen, there could be commensality of the business, it could be a joint family household. Of course, it is not the separate household as per SR Batra and Taruna Batra case. Separate house of the parent-in-laws might not be there, but it is for the respondent to make proper provision for residence of the women. So all these mechanisms, the protection officer who has to assist the magistrate, the victim, the agreed person may reach the protection officer. Now the question arises, when she does not have a phone, when she does not have a when she is not allowed to go out of the house in such kind of a situation, what she can do? So first thing is, you need to raise your voice. When it comes from inside the aggrieved person, then only all these agencies would come to the help of the person. So you should respect, the aggrieved person need to respect his own self. The aggrieved person need to respect her right to live a dignified life. He has human right, he has the fundamental right, Article 14, Article 15, Article 21. So why she wants to give away with those rights? So you have to come up, you have to raise your voice, you respect yourself, be aware of the laws, find out which are the laws. There is a television in the house, most households have the television. You can call the neighbor, you can call a person who is who may assist your family member, who may assist you. So, and then you can have some NGOs. The Anganwadis are there. In rural places, there are Anganwadis. You can reach the NGOs. You may try to reach the police. And there are various helpline numbers provided. My colleague, Ms. Neeti Suri, will be mentioning all these numbers from the legal aid side. So there are various WhatsApp messages. And Dr. Kshitij and Professor Raman were talking about the Spain. So in Spain, such women, even if they go to a chemist shop and they There is a code word there. At the chemist shop, if they ask for mask 19, so that is a code word that she is suffering from domestic violence. And help can be sent to such a person. Now, it is not only the aggrieved person, we have to work at the community level as well. Here we find we have many PLVs, many advocates who have joined the meeting. So what we are doing as an individual, what we have a duty towards the society at large, the community at large, those we need to analyze. All these we need to analyze. So we are not going to sit quietly when we hear some abuses in the neighbor's house. Report it. We have Section 4 of the Domestic Violence Act, which provides immunity to any such information given to the protection officer. So there won't be any civil or criminal liability incurred by you. Neither it would be by the service provider. So when you have the immunity, report such incident. Let the police reach the house. Let them inquire. If there is an inquiry, then in that situation, there might be the incident may come forward. The abuser, he might be caught. So first and foremost, it is the duty of the victim herself to come forward and to be aware of her rights. When you are aware of your rights, when you come to see that there are this laws, you can watch the TV, there are so many news channels, newspapers have, then there might be it is not that you are totally in isolation. You might be having your friends somewhere, there might be family members. So as family members, it is the duty of the family members to make a call. At least a telephone call can be made by them. Similarly, as a community, we can make a call to our friends to know about their well-being. So even in case of exigencies, okay, मेरे उस friend का इतने दिन से phone नहीं आया, let me call her, let me call him. Oh, there is a senior citizen, he used to take care of me, let me call him during this exigency. I had an old teacher, let me call the teacher and let me know about whether he is fine or not at this stage. So in these circumstances, we find that there are so many ways in which the community as well as the aggrieved person can help in proper implementation of the laws under domestic violence. First, we have to do away with this stigma which is attached to reporting any such incident of domestic violence. Oh, inke ghar mein kya ho gaya? So such kind of a situation, such kind of a stigma has to be done away with. If you need help, raise your voice, and then it becomes the duty of the community. You can approach any person, the neighbor, and we should have this duty in ourselves. We need to inculcate such things. We need to be educated regarding the law, that there would be no criminal or civil liability attached to such things. So come forward. There are so many laws which may help the victims of domestic violence. So we need to have a practical approach in such kind of exigencies also. And I may end with an example. It is not that every time there is a lockdown when such exigencies are there. Exigency is an urgency in a situation. So I'll tell about a case which I disposed of in my court when I was sitting as a Mahila court, and this remained with me because I find the women, the said aggrieved person, she was so much aware about her rights, which led to her getting the emergent relief. So what happened that this lady one day went to an Anganwadi and she got a job in the Anganwadi. And when she returned, her husband would not allow her to enter the house, saying that you go anywhere, I will not allow you. I don't want you to take a job. And so you are now out of my house. She said, you are not providing me with maintenance. So what other thing I have started earning for myself, and now you are not allowing me. Ultimately, the thing was he did not allow her. So she was attached to an Anganwadi. The Anganwadi, the head there might be attached to some NGO. She made a call to the NGO. The NGO made a call to the protection officer who was attached in my court. And at that time, the protection officer, she reached the place of residence of the lady along with the Anganwadi worker as well as the NGOs. And at that time, the person then also did not allow. She prepared the protection officer prepared the domestic incident report. She produced the lady at 3 p.m. before me in the court, asking for an emergent relief in the form of residence order for the lady. She said the husband is not allowing. We have tried. The husband is not allowed. We need the police assistance. That is why we have come to the court for this protection officer. The DIR was clear, and the protection officer has categorically mentioned that she is covered under the protection of women from domestic act. That is, she is in a domestic relationship. She is sharing the household. So all the ingredients were complete. In such kind of a situation, I found that he was eligible to have the protection order. So when the protection order was provided to the women, it was stated that the police will assist her and she will go to her house. And I had referred section 17 of the act, which provides the right of the women not to be evicted from the shared household without due process of law. So how could the husband evict her? So the instructions were also given that the police, the SHO concerned police station will recruit a beat constable who will see that the women does not suffer any such kind of condition in the future. So the next day the lady was again in front of me saying that my husband, when I came to the court, he locked the house and went away. So now the order need to be enforced. It is for the court to see that the orders are enforced. So section 17, utilizing section 17 of the act, wherein it is held that nothing, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force, every woman in a domestic relationship shall have the right to reside in the shared household, whether or not she has any right or title in the same. The aggrieved person shall not be evicted or excluded from the household or any part of it by the respondent, save in accordance with the procedure established by law. So when she cannot be evicted and all her goods, all her clothes, all her belongings were lying in the house, in such a situation, the magistrate, having the power under section 28(2) of the Domestic Violence Act, may provide that the police officer will ensure that she is not evicted from the premises. The police officer are at liberty to break open the locks in case the respondent is not traced out, in case he is avoiding coming before the police officer or the protection officer to ensure the execution of the residence order. The police broke open the locks. She was inside the house. The husband did not turn up for 2 days. After 2 days, the court had given notice to the husband also. After giving the interim relief, after 2 days, the husband came. The husband said, I do not want her to work. Then the court asked why he is not providing the maintenance. He asked that he will provide the maintenance, but he does not want the wife to work. However, it was something between the husband and the wife. In case he makes provision, that was whatever might have happened later. But interim relief, emergent relief sought by the lady when she is thrown out of the house because she is having knowledge of her right, she is having access to the proper person. So be aware of your rights. The victim needs to be made aware of their rights. Then only the act, the emergent release under the act might be beneficial, and this beneficial legislation, this progressive legislation may be implemented in the true sense. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. And what comes from you is that there is enough law, but the thing which is missing is the awareness. And I must say, it is a kind of socio-legal problem. You cannot do everything by law only. You need to make people aware of their rights. And as you say, the impact of this domestic violence is not only on the woman concerned, but other stakeholders also, like children, like many others. So in that way, there is a need to change the attitude in society. And I mean, they first of all recognize that something which is happening in a family, sometimes it is a sensitive, I mean, issue. That is why in families sometimes it is suppressed. It is not that much, I mean, encouraged that you can do it. So I mean, one has to realize not only that very family who is concerned, but other people also, so that they can bring that very information to her at least, and make her aware that you realize your right and you must know the forums where you have to approach. So you highlighted very good, I mean, examples also, which clearly shows that how a person can approach and how he can find a relief. So having said that, a bunch of people cannot do that. I mean, it must be done by everyone. I mean, like you, like me, we have like 500 students, 200 students, so they can reach out, they can make awareness, but they cannot do everything. So the society as a whole must be, I mean, engaged in this very process. And every time, if anything happened, people just, I mean, criticize the law, that law is not good, that is why we are not able to do that. But the thing is that how the law could be implemented, that decides more on the practices which are there. So we need to inculcate those kind of awareness, and awareness is the key in every field. I'm not talking about only domestic violence. In every legal field or law, I mean, which is concerned, this is the main problem, that people are not even aware of, or they cannot realize what right they have. So this is the basic problem. So I'm very, I mean, thankful to you that you have analyzed all the legal provisions, as well as you have provided a very clear-cut, I mean, picture that what you can grab from law, whether the law is at fault or whether there is some procedural faults there. Sometimes some people say that this very procedure which is being given under this very law may also be little bit more simplified. So that we can take into account in that way. But that again depends upon those people who are running that, the machinery, the supporting staff, the other people who are there. So these kind of programs, these awareness programs will do the due. I hope that. And as you said that there is always a silver line, and we are not that, I mean, that much, I mean, in a situation where we will be hopeless or something like that. So this is a good, I mean, initiative, and we hope that we can reach out to the people. So next I will invite Ms. Neeti Suri Mishra ma'am, who is the Secretary, Central CDLSA, and she has been playing a very meaningful role in disseminating the awareness and approaching the people from all strata. So in that way, she will be, I mean, aware of various other intricacies which are involved in this on this very topic. So I must invite you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Susheel, Bala, Dagar ma'am, Dr. Raman, Mittal, Dr. Kshitij, Kumar, Singh, and my dear students of the Campus Law Center. Very good afternoon to all of you. I'm really delighted to be interacting with all of you, with the students of CLC once again, although it is on this virtual platform. But digital platforms or virtual platforms, as we all know, for the interactions and meetings and seminars, they have become the new normal for today. For the various merits and advantages which are attached to this type of forum. However, I personally feel that these types of forums and sessions should only supplement, and they should not replace the real classrooms, the school and the colleges classrooms, which have their own charm and which give us a lot of experiences in their own ways. Well, friends, all of you know that nature is wreaking a havoc on mankind during these times. Or we can put it more aptly by saying that nature is rejuvenating itself while human beings, while all of us are locked down inside our homes. Now, friends, man, we all know, has a tendency of suppressing and showing one-upmanship over those who are weaker to him. And that is precisely the reason why we have gathered today to analyze the practicality of domestic violence laws during exigencies. Dr. Kshitij, Susheel, Bala, Dagar ma'am, they have all explained to you in a beautiful manner how and what are really the reasons why we have come here, what is the need to discuss about the domestic violence laws, and especially what is the need to discuss about these laws during this time, that is during the times of crisis. Now, before I begin with making a threadbare analysis of the current times and how domestic violence laws are being applied during these times, let me give you a small account, a brief account of what legal services authorities are and what legal services authorities do generally, and later on I will come down to what have been their roles and functions during the present times. So quickly I'll say, without wasting much time, all of us must be aware that there is a Legal Services Authorities Act. Legal Services Authorities Act, it was passed in the year 1987. Through this enactment of the Parliament, three statutory bodies were formed. These bodies were, at the national level, it was the National Legal Services Authority. At the state level, it was the State Legal Services Authority. And at the level of each district within every state, there is a District Legal Services Authority. Now, from top to bottom, from the national level till the level of the District Legal Services Authority, it is the duty of these authorities to provide free and competent legal aid to all the people who belong to vulnerable sections of the society. By providing legal aid or legal services, it is meant that whenever any poor person who is unable to hire the services of a private lawyer, who are generally very expensive, when these people come to us, we provide them free legal aid, like we provide them free legal counsel, and we also provide them free consultation on all legal aspects. Now, besides this, besides providing these services, the duty of legal services authorities, as has also been mentioned by Kshitij just now, is that we also focus a lot on spreading mass awareness, disseminating awareness about their rights amongst the citizens. So that is why we collaborate, we join, we conduct seminars with schools, colleges, and at community level for the purpose of making the community, the people at large, aware about their rights. And that is also the reason why we have paralegal volunteers who are our eyes and ears, who provide us information, who help us, the legal services authorities, to execute their plans of providing legal assistance to people. Now, all of us know that Article 39A of the Constitution is extremely important. It talks about providing free legal aid and also talks about creating or promoting a system which provides justice to all the people, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, and monetary or financial status. So now, looking at this scenario, when we come down to the present scenario of lockdown, all of us know we are terribly locked down in our homes. There, people are totally uncertain about their jobs. Unemployment might be on the rise after this lockdown is over. There could be several other reasons where when people are locked down in their houses, there are pent up feelings, and there is a possibility that because of these reasons, the man who is generally the husband, or the male counterpart who is generally superior bodily and is able to exert influence over the females in the family, or sometimes he perpetrates domestic violence against the female counterparts in the family. Now, in these circumstances, what is the remedy which is available to the woman? Madam Susheel Bala Dagar has beautifully explained to you what are the cases of domestic violence, what are the types of domestic violence. It could be domestic violence is physical violence. Secondly, it is mental or emotional violence. Thirdly, it is sexual violence. And fourth type of violence is economic or monetary violence. Now, these types of violences, then there is also the remedies which are provided under the Act, which is Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. The remedies, ma'am has rightly explained that they are four support systems, four remedies which are provided. It's a fourfold support system, which he says, where the protection orders, residence orders, custody order, compensation and monetary order, which are generally provided to the women. Now, this is what happens during the normal circumstances. Now, let us come down to understanding whether these laws or whether the protection orders which are provided under the Act of 2005, the benefit of it can also be provided during these times? That is the real question that we have to address at this moment. Excuse me, I believe someone's microphone is on and it is causing disturbance. Can we have everybody?
Participant is requested to mute his microphone, so that we will be running this smoothly. Yeah.
Because this is causing disturbance.
Yes.
Gaurav, can we have everyone muted at this moment? Right. When we know that these are the protection orders or these are the remedies which are provided to us under the Act, besides this, ma'am has also explained that the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act is not applicable merely to matrimonial relationships. Non-matrimonial relationships are also covered in this, like father-daughter relationship, brother-sister relationship, or mother and son relationship. They are also covered in this. Now, the question is that when a woman is suffering domestic violence, and what are the remedies during the present times that she can avail? How to approach the remedy? Then what would be the subsequent steps, and what would be the legal remedies? These are basically three steps which have to be addressed. First of all is the question of reporting the matter. Now, when a lady or a girl is suffering domestic violence at home and the perpetrator is also at home, she is basically living with her abuser. The abuser might be exerting a lot of pressure on her. She must be living in complete fear of that abuser. In these times, how can she report the matter to the police, or how can she seek assistance of the other people so as to protect herself from the domestic violence and to further get out or to escape from those circumstances? So all of us, first of all, need to see that first person who can really help us is the police. So when a woman is suffering domestic violence, calling the police, as ma'am has said, is the first recourse which a person would do. Now, in case if the woman or if the police does not help the woman, then the second remedy which the woman would be having is to call the helpline number of 1516. Now, 1516 or 1516 is the helpline number. It's a toll-free helpline number of the Delhi State Legal Services Authority. Delhi State Legal Services Authority has publicized this number at everywhere all around Delhi. The number has been publicized even at the mother dairy booths, at the chemist shops, by way of print and electronic media. The number has been widely publicized in order to ensure that if a woman is suffering domestic violence in her home, she can at any place simply call at the number. Now, even if she doesn't want to call at the number, even if she fears the perpetrator so much to the extent that she cannot speak over the phone on this number, then she can also simply leave a text message or a WhatsApp message, or even can give a missed call at this number. And the legal aid counsel, who is basically manning this number, who is sitting at the other end of this number, will take up the call of the lady and will inform about the details of the lady to the concerned secretary. Now, this is the method by which the legal services authorities are going. So, legal services authorities have widely publicized because we have understood the grievance, or we have understood the circumstances in which a woman would not be able to go out of the house and she may not be able to report the matter to the police. So we have tried to reach out to the women in their homes only, so that with simply by the click of a button, she is able to communicate to a person who can give her proper legal advice. Besides this, the legal services authorities have also set up on-call legal counseling. The services of on-call legal counseling, when there is this helpline number of the Delhi State Legal Services Authority, the on-call legal counseling of each district within Delhi, as Delhi has 11 districts. So on-call legal counseling is also available in each district for the purpose of assistance of the lady. Now, besides this, when the matter has been reported, when the matter has been brought to us within the knowledge of the Legal Services Authority, then the next question is of how to get the matter resolved. First of all, if the matter is a resolvable matter, if the matter is not very grave, where it is simple ego issues between the perpetrator and the victim, then there is a mechanism of getting both the parties to counseling. If they sit at counseling table, and if they are able to counsel the matter, nothing like it. We have the legal aid counsels who are acting as mediators, as well as on-call legal counseling, as I have just now mentioned. Over the phone only the counseling is done, and and it is tried that the matter gets resolved between the parties, and for the domestic violence is not perpetrated. Now, besides this, if the counseling method doesn't work, if the perpetrator, if the abuser is still abusing, is still perpetrating domestic violence, then the next remedy is of ensuring that a proper protection order or a proper order from the court is sought by the legal services authorities. In that scenario, the courts also have now devised a mechanism. Earlier, the courts were also a little confused about how to provide reliefs to the women who are suffering domestic violence. But now things have changed with the passage of time. Like, I would like to mention that a writ petition was filed in the Honorable High Court of Delhi, where the writ petition has been disposed of, and the legal services authorities have been directed to legal services authorities, when they informed the High Court that they have taken various steps for reaching out to the women, for reaching out to the girls living within Delhi, so that whoever wants to report their matter can simply report it. Initially it was thought that since lockdown has been there and people cannot approach the courts, it was deemed that legal filing was nearly impossible. But now legal filing has been initiated, and even through email has been initiated in every district court. And it is the legal aid councils who are basically to whom the victim is giving details about her and about the facts and figures, that how domestic violence is being perpetrated against her. When she approaches, then application under section 12 of the DV Act is being filed on her behalf. For instance, in Dwarka court, application has been filed for the protection of the women, and we at TCSRE also are receiving such applications where women are coming forward, and they are coming forward to fight against the perpetrator. And gradually, in a week's time or in 2 weeks, we will be filing few applications for seeking protection with regard for these women. Now, this is the basic scenario. This is the infrastructure which the courts have gradually developed. But it is like it has been explicitly said before also, that it is the duty of each one of us who is in the society, who is member of the society, who as a citizen of the country, it is our duty to ensure that we should report such matters. Reporting, first of all, is important. As paralegal volunteers, as students, such responsible students of this country, if any incident of domestic violence is seen by you within your families, or if it is seen by you within your neighborhood or with any of your friends, it would be really good if you either report the matter yourself. Now, the person who reports the matter himself, sometimes he feels scared that he might come in the forefront, or he might be affected for being the complainant. But be rest assured that the complainant or whoever calls at the helpline number and informs about an incident of domestic violence, that person will never be brought to the forefront. His identity will never be disclosed, and the matter will be simply, with regard to his identity, it would be kept under wraps. However, the matter will be resolved. Now, there is another thing, that the Delhi State Legal Services authorities have also collaborated with the police. So whenever we receive any incident of, whenever we receive information about an incident of domestic violence, we immediately collaborate with and coordinate with the police authorities, who are really responsive and who are acting on our complaints these days. For example, I'll give you an example of the last week. In the last week, one matter of domestic violence was reported to me, where one teacher who has been living with her brother for quite some time and she reported to the legal aid council who was manning the 1516 helpline. She told her that her brother was time and again threatening her that he would kill her for the property, and that he was not even permitting her to use the basic things in the house. So when this matter was reported to us, we intervened, we got the man counseled, and after counseling, now things have been resolved and settled between the brother and sister. So when these types of circumstances, when they are reported, when responsible citizens and active citizens of the country, when they come forward, when they report the matter, then only things can be resolved at our end. Now, as has been also been mentioned by Kshitij sir, that in Spain as well as in UK, various measures have been taken by the government to see that the matters of domestic violence are reported. Similarly, I would say that steps have been taken in the state, in the NCT of Delhi also, to see that the domestic violence cases are brought to the fore, and so that they are also resolved from time to time. Like I have also mentioned that we have collaborated with mother dairy booths, with pharmacy shops. We have also conducting webinars like this for our paralegal volunteers to make them aware to make them aware that in case domestic violence cases are brought to their knowledge, what steps they have to do. Then besides this, we have also collaborated with Anganwadi workers, and we have also set up help desks at various police stations where we are receiving cases of domestic violence, reports of domestic violence on a daily basis, and we are ensuring that proper counseling of the victims are done, as well as of the perpetrators are being done. But friends, I would still say that during these times, or in general also, what we have learned from the past century, I would say, or what I have noticed from the past century, is that people these days have got into the habit of reaction. Everyone tends to react to circumstances rather than reflecting over things. If somebody from the other side is saying something to us, if he wishes to express something to us, let us not go by the manner of what that person is, or the tenor of the tenor which is being used by that person. Let us try to understand the trouble which is there in that person's mind. Now, suppose if the mother in the family or the sister in the family is irritated, is frustrated because of certain thing, and if she tries to, whatever she tries to convey to the other family members, may not be in a very polite manner. So we as family members, we should not react to those things. We should try to understand the difficulty that she might be facing during this time, because each one of us is in difficult times. Each one of us is troubled in our minds somewhere or at somewhere or the other point. So if we go by not reacting and first reflecting to what the other person wants to tell us, what the other person wants to convey us, then maybe we will be able to settle our disputes within the family only. These disputes within the family, they may not flare up like they have generally flared up these days. Besides this, it is also important for us to understand, like ma'am has said, that we should not attach any stigma to the matters being reported. It is the fundamental right, it is the constitutional right of every woman in this country to live her life with complete dignity. There should be no taunting, there should be no physical violence against her, there should be no mental abuse, emotional abuse, or even economic abuse. I would like to give you example of one lady who is a friend of mine. I would not like to name her, but what she has undergone in the last few days, in the last few years, is very heartening. It is a heart-wrenching story. I would briefly tell you of how innocent females, even in these times, are being troubled by the in-laws and the husband. This lady, she is an educated woman, has been married for around 11 years, and has 2 children. But since the date of her marriage, she has not kept her salary even of 1 month with her. Every month, whenever she used to get her salary, her father-in-law used to come with the checkbook and used to get the check signed from her, and he used to simply in the pay column write self, जैसे self का check होता है, and after he used to, the woman, if she was getting a salary of 1 lakh rupees, he used to withdraw 80,000 or more than that from her account, and that was he used to withdraw cash from the account, and out of that money which he used to withdraw, he used to give the woman only 10,000 or 12,000 out of that amount of her own salary, so that she could use that for herself. Now, for all these years, she has not kept her salary even for 1 month for her own. She has no savings of her own. She has no savings for her children. The husband doesn't pay her anything, and in a very cunning manner, the family members, they have been sort of duping her of her own rights. She was only trying to जिसको कहते हैं अपनी मैरिज को बचाने की कोशिश कर रही थी. She did not tell about all these things to her parents also. She did not discuss it with anybody, and she was simply trying to save her family, because the husband used to threaten her time and again that I will divorce you. So when these types of circumstances are happening, if something of this sort is happening within our families or within our neighborhood, it is our duty to ensure that we bring such matters to the fore. All the remedies and about Domestic Violence Act, ma'am has discussed elaborately. My intention was to discuss with all of you about how the legal services authorities are working and what steps have been taken by the legal services authorities. So I would in the end simply say that we should learn to reflect over things and not to react over things, and understand that this way we will be able to amicably resolve our disputes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and I hope that the audience have gotten this interface or various, insights from you that is not generally available to the people. So what I gathered from your discussion is, number one is, that was coming to my mind also, like this is a very delicate kind of issue where you cannot go by stringent laws, because it will impact the family, it will impact many things. So the thing which you highlighted, that there is a kind of mechanism where you invite those stakeholders to come and join you and go for, if it is just like, very nominal, or you can say very lesser kind of degree of conflict or something, then that could be resolved amicably. So whether they are able to speak, that is the problem which you highlighted. Like they are hesitant because various things, like society is not treating them in a way where they feel respectful. So because this is the first hesitation which comes to their mind, that whether we should proceed or not to proceed. So here the anonymity of those people who are being affected like that must be ensured first, and then they must be encouraged to at least talk to the relevant people who are there to assist them. So this how it could be managed more depends upon that, but it is a very significant step which you say that you have taken, and you are being forging collaboration with other people who are relevant to that. And the next thing is that counseling, the counselors play a very important role, and I hope that you do have those people who know a kind of psychological position of that very aggrieved person. So that is one thing which you highlighted very well. And next thing is that I'm glad to know that you are making collaborations with dairy, mother dairy and all that. And I was aware of that, but I was not aware whether it is being aligned to domestic violence too or not. So that is a good indication, which I really appreciate. And it is not a job of one person, as I say, that it is a very collaborative effort which must be taken care of. And people, when they talk about domestic violence, then there is a duty that they must join hand with people who are doing that thing. So just talking and just saying is not enough. And as you said, that how you receive those talks, how you receive that value, issues, that is very important. Because if you become very reactive that, she's making these kind of issues just like that because she has some personality problem or something like that, so that discourage these kind of efforts. So if anything happen like that, then the next person must always stop him or they must be ready to explain that very thing, that you must take it in a meaningful manner. So that is a very encouraging, sign. And we must say that we are also doing in the same line as other countries are doing. So, or more than that, I hope. So in that way, you have, clearly make this point, which is very much required to be made. And I hope that the discussion would be very informative to the audience. And if there are few questions from the audience, we must invite regarding this. So in the chat, I found only one question that was asked that with two, it is addressed to Susheel, Bala ma'am, and it was like whether right to shelter has been made a fundamental right, why the women have to face such infringement of their rights. So over to you. I do have my own answer, but I cannot, give that.
Please,
yeah.
Kshitij, please can you repeat the question because I don't find the question.
They were just asking please. That right to shelter, which is so much important, right to shelter, which is so important to these kind of people who are so vulnerable. Why that has not been recognized as a fundamental right or something like that?
We do recognize the right under Article 21 of the Act. Maybe the state might not be having so many provisions, so it might be there in the fundamental duties, but under impliedly we do recognize the right to shelter.
Yeah.
Under Article 20.
One of the cases, if I remember, Olga Tellis case, that was also a case which was raised in the Supreme Court, and it was recognized that it is a fundamental right of the citizen. But the thing is that whether that is all inclusive or that would be for these exigencies or not, how that has been applied, because recognition is like Article 21, sometimes it is being criticized also that it has become a residuary article for any exigencies or contingencies. Like you can just, accommodate everything under it. So if you are not taking care of their effectuation or implementation, then they just remain a kind of, dead letter over that very. Right? So mere recognition is not enough. As you say, that more depends on these approaches which are being carried on by the CDLSA or many other functionaries. If they are taking care of these rights, then I hope that that would be a more meaningful, attempt to do that, to solve that. So any other question I'm not getting? So if anyone...
I'm finding one question.
Yeah. Please identify yourself. Hello?
I find one question by one Siddharth. It says, my question is that in case of domestic violence, on whom does the burden of proof lies? On the victim or the abused? Since the violence is difficult to prove on the part of the victim, how can evidence be collected? Okay. So, Domestic Violence Act, like all other acts, when the person who is complaining, the victim, the aggrieved party, has to first prove that there is an abuse to her. And we find, yes, it is true that it is difficult certain times to prove on the part of the victim that she has suffered physical abuse or mental abuse. There was slapping, there was hitting, there is no proof of that. There is no physical proof of that. The insults which are heard, there might be no physical proof of that. In such a situation, how can the evidence be collected? So that is what I say. You need to be aware of your rights. You need to be aware about the various provisions of the act, and that awareness is being spread by the DLSA, and the aggrieved person may reach the protection officer, get prepared the domestic incident report. In case she is beaten on a particular day, however, she does not want to take any action. At that time, she may get prepared the domestic incident report with the protection officer. The protection officer may counsel the person. The protection officer has to supply the domestic incident report to the police station as well as to the service provider as well, who is counseling as per section 14 of the Act. Then that domestic incident report remains on this particular date. This domestic incident report was prepared. She was insulted, she was slapped, this. happened. She came crying. So all such things, that domestic incident report becomes an evidence. Second time she is beaten. Again, her husband comes, says, apologizes to her, but that domestic incident report remains with her. So there might be various ways, and as counsels, you find out ways how you are going to prove it. If you made a call to your relative, if you made a call to your parents, so that call record can be there. So such kind of evidence is taken in the domestic violence act, and it is not that under the domestic violence act we have to prove beyond reasonable doubt like criminal law. It is a civil remedy, so preponderance of probabilities will duly work in such kind of a situation. I hope you get the point.
Yeah, there is another, addition, which is being like this, that one-stop centers are functional in all over the country. So anyone suffering from any violence can contact the centers. So what is your take on that? One-stop center?
Yes, one-stop centers are also functioning. The Ministry of Women and Child Development, it has set up one-stop centers at various places also. They are in hospitals, they are at some designated places. There the one-stop centers are working. So, like I said, everyone in these times, everyone, even the Madam Smriti Irani, who is the minister of the ministry, she once conducted a webinar, and wherein all the heads of the NGOs and the one-stop centers who are manning these one-stop centers, everyone was roped in, everyone was informed, and even now we get information from the ministries that the one-stop centers are functioning. So, all the stakeholders within the society at this moment, they are taking steps in their own ways. They are working in their own ways to ensure that cases of domestic violence are reported and that some or the other remedy is provided to the victim.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't feel helpless during this time.
So another question is, can simultaneously we approach for maintenance order under the Domestic Violence Act and CRPC?
Yes, of course. Section 20 of the Domestic Violence Act provides for maintenance, and which is adjustable to the maintenance if the agreed person is getting under Section 125 of the CRPC. That might be adjustable, but there can be simultaneous provision for maintenance under the DV Act as well as the CRPC.
So another question is, although the Domestic Violence Act provide for service providers, but in response to an RTI, Delhi government has said that there are no service providers. So is that correct, or what is your answer regarding that?
Service providers,
yes, the service providers like NGOs or shelter homes, they are functioning even these times. Even otherwise also they are functioning. For instance, if a woman has been thrown out by the family members and she doesn't have she cannot go to her, or one can say that she doesn't have parents to whom she can go to, and she also doesn't want to live with the abuser within the four walls of the same house, then where she can't be allowed to stay on the road. So for women of these types, for women affected by such type of violence, there are shelter homes, there are service providers who give shelter to these women. So there are shelters. I would not like to comment why it has been said that Delhi government has said that no service providers are there, but there are service providers.
And to add to what Neeti has said, Section 9 of the Domestic Violence Act, the duties of the protection officer. It is the duty of the protection officer to have a list of all such service providers, the NGOs. They will be maintaining such lists, and we can contact the particular protection officers regarding the said list. And of course, I also asked for this list of service providers from my protection officers when I was working for in the Mahila Code. At that time, in the Northwest District itself, they provided me with a list of 27 NGOs who were providing the services.
Okay.
And in fact, I would like to add here that every Mahila court has one protection officer. It is the duty of the protection officer to ensure that every type of assistance is provided to the woman. So starting from the domestic violence report which the protection officer files, to ensuring that the woman is placed at a safe place, to ensuring that no type of violence is perpetrated. The protection officer also seeks assistance from the police authorities. So it is a collaborative effort everywhere. That's how it works.
Okay. So the last one is, which is not that much clear to me. That question is, please differentiate common law marriage and live-in relationships. So I hope that he is intending to ask that whether it could extend to live-in relationship or not. So please clarify that.
Yes, ma'am.
See, the relationship in the nature of marriage, if we are particularly talking about the DV Act, the relationship which is in the nature of marriage is being recognized by the DV Act. And the nature in the relationship of marriage is particularly elaborated. The ingredients which are required to prove such kind of a relationship in the nature of marriage has been duly provided by the Honorable Supreme Court in D. Veluswamy versus D. Patai Chamal case, wherein it is clarified that each and every living relationship will not amount to a relationship in the nature of marriage. For to be a relationship in the nature of marriage, the person should be living together, and they should be portraying to the society that they are living together as husband-wife in the nature of marriage. That kind of a live-in relationship is there. Then they should be of the age of marriage. They should not be having a spouse living. And in case the agreed person is saying that I was not informed, maybe her case might be covered under the DV Act. But in case the woman is not able to prove that she was not having the knowledge that this person is already married, then in such a situation, the said relationship cannot be considered to be in the nature of marriage. So such ingredients are being clarified by the Honorable Supreme Court. Go through D. Veluswamy's case, you will be clear on this point.
Okay. So I hope that no further question is there. If anybody is living under same house. Yeah, that is one question. Is living under same house a sine qua non of the Act?
I was expecting why this question is not being asked, and there are so many questions in each and every session regarding the shared household. The definition of shared household is clear under Section 2S of the Act, and it provides that the household where they live together. Generally, for applying the provision of the Domestic Violence Act, the courts see whether there is a common kitchen or not. In today's society, we find there is a common house, there is one house, entrance is the same, but people are residing on floors, separate floors. They are having separate kitchen. Can we say that in such kind of a situation, there is any domestic relationship between the persons? So, maybe or may not be, in any particular circumstance, such kind, it can be proved that whether there is a common kitchen, whether there is no common kitchen, whether there is a common business, whether it is a joint family property where the husband is having the share, all such circumstances matter in such cases. So in Navneet Arora case of the Honorable Delhi High Court, all such cases have been mentioned, wherein there was a widow. After the death of the husband, they were turning her out of the house. The widow approached the court. The Honorable Delhi High Court has held that even though it is a joint family property, the lady is having a common kitchen. Even after death of the husband, she is living in the same house. So she is in a domestic relationship. So all such things are being clarified in the various case laws which are there under domestic violence.
Okay, so we are approaching to the end of our session. It was wonderful. And on behalf of my Dean, Faculty of Law, she was, she started, joining this very, webinar. But at that very moment, because of these exigencies, so many calls from universities also coming. So because of that, they have to rush to that very meeting also. So she has greeted us and she sent the message that it could be a good, meaningful discourse. So I thank her. And the same was with Professor Raman Mittal. He has to attend another meeting. So he has been here. between he was there, and I hope that you can understand their, this concern. So this is a very meaningful discourse on a topic which is not being discussed that much. And if it is discussed, it is not discussed in that manner as you are discussing, because it gives you the holistic view that how can you approach that very issue and how can you proceed with that. And what are the various mechanisms through which you can, raise your voice. So I hope that everyone who's listening today, they must be, approaching this very issue as an individual, not like in a defined, you can say, their portfolio. But they must, as an individual, disseminate the awareness about domestic violence. They must treat each individual in their family in the same manner, that the realization of that very right is always on. And if they have any sort of, these kind of issues, first of all, they must try to resolve by themselves. And if it is not possible, then that must be taken care of by us, as meaningful agencies of this very topic. So I must thank very much to Susheel, Bala ma'am, and I keep you inviting. You must come and deliver a talk, disseminate your practical experience, because as you know, you are encountering those problems on a daily basis. So it must not be theoretical, it must be clinical. As you say, these legal aid societies are, I can say, tools of clinical legal education. So, and students, if they are taking these things, if they are perceiving these problems at this very stage, they may, take this forward in a very, very meaningful way. So, this is a good forum to expose them to understand these things. So, you have beautifully, provided all the insights about the legal provisions of this very law, as well as you have made something very clear, which was a little confusing in the mind of the people. And next thing is, I must thank Neeti Suri, Mishra ma'am. I have a very regular conversation with her because of various programs, and I hope that we will be intensifying our efforts to grasp this very problem and try to, address that. So thank you very much, and thank you all. So we will be stopping.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So nice.
Thank you.